the creator, now bowing to the created. Now I can stand bolder, my heart and mind are sober. Looking to see a sign, my staff turned to a cobra. With magic they did the same, refused to fear his name. Hearts remain hard till their firstborns were slain. The knowledge you have is vain. Chakras and kundalinis, Kabbalah, tree of life, witchcraft and genies, mystery school teaching. Of course it gotta be right, you know it all. Somebody gain eternal life. Were you there when he made the earth? When he formed man's bones, only used the dirt? Were you there when he made the planets? Please tell me how he did it if you understand it. Were you there when he made the heavens? And all their array rested on the seventh. All you have is speculation and theories. Gave us basic commands, we comprehend them clearly. What's the purpose of living? What's the purpose of dying? Who do you believe when everybody is lying? How do you wait fire? Count the sands of the seas. Tell me how many stars throughout the galaxy. Some things only God knows. If questions linger in your mind till your eyes close. But here's something you can understand. Fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man. While you still have a chance, fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man. While you still have a chance, fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man.
All right, we good? Okay, hallelujah. Let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. Good to see all of you beautiful people again this Shabbat. We are blessed to be in his service one more time. One more time. Hey, but look, it's a true statement. That was one of the songs that played every Sunday when I did go to church. But I used to love that song.
Yeah, we too.
I used to love that song. It is a blessing to be in the service of Yah. Now that we know what being in his service is, I don't take it lightly, and neither should you. Neither should you in here with me. So look, picking up with the 14th installment of the Priesthood. And this is what we're dealing with today, fam. We're dealing with this idea of to wrestle with, to overcome, and to rule with power. Are you guys ready? You ready to kick this off?
Let's kick it out.
Trying to wait till my people in here get settled down, fam. Give me 1 second.
How we in there?
Today we'll be reading from Scriptures Translation or KJV Translation, Standard 66. We will be reading from the book of Jasher, Psalm. We will be reading a little bit from Jubilees. I think that's predominantly it. Yeah, I intended to get into the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs today, but that would have caused me to have to jump ahead faster than I wanted to. And although I want to, kind of get to the meat of the matter, I don't want to lose some very important things. So, okay, I see we got a couple more people in. So, Koti Gabora, you want to come to the mic before we get started? You got it. Come on. Shalom. Go ahead, sis. It's your mic.
Okay, can y'all hear me now? Okay, there I go.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to know, do you use any type of atlas? Like, do you know a good one to use?
Atlas for Bible maps?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I generally just Google search I do have maps downloaded in my eSword. So there are some Bible maps that you can download for free if you have eSword, and they'll give you maps that pertain to certain periods in history and that pertain to certain events that happen in scripture, if that helps you. But if I'm just doing general study, I usually just do Google. And of course, if I'm looking for an older map, then I Google an older map. Or if it don't matter, then it don't matter. Sometimes I'm trying to see what areas that were called something in scripture, in history, are called today. So I need a current map, but I don't know. No, as far as
Yeah,
the
I do
actual
that
book, I
too.
don't have one.
Yeah, I do that too. But today I was listening to a message, and the atlas that he was using was also had information. So I'm just trying to find out like what I thought maybe you would have had that specific book too. Guess I
Oh,
would
he
have
didn't
to
tell you
stalk
what the
him
name of
on
it
it.
was?
Okay. No, he didn't tell me what the
Oh,
it
okay.
was a whole message that Antoinette always sends me the link to.
Okay.
And I don't pay attention to his name or nothing, but yeah, he didn't give the book, but he was showing like inserts from the book
Hmm.
on the projector screen. So I'm just trying to find that book. That's it.
I understand. Yeah. You know what? And I like you, I love good resources. So when people do share information and they have a good resource, um, I'm mad when they don't when they don't give the name or the author and stuff like that. Because I'll be wondering.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
was like, you know what? Never mind.
yeah.
Snowball probably got it.
I don't. I'm sorry. That one I don't have. But if you come up with it, please share it with us because that sounds like a good one. So yeah, if you find it, let us know. Brother Bowie. Okay. Coty says she might be able to get the actual book for you. Hallelujah. Yeah, for me too, please. I would like to see that, especially if it has information, not just the maps.
Yes, it was like it went deep into it. Like it was telling about the atlas was telling like about the different dynasties, who was
Oh yeah.
there, who, and what I found interesting was when they were talking about Herod, we always assume that, Herod was a Jew, but reading through the atlas, we found that he was one of the ones that were forced into Judaism. So he wasn't actual a birth Jew. So it was just I was like, okay, yeah, I need that book.
Yeah. Yeah. So it tells you that in scriptures too. He was an Edomite. He was not a Jew. Yeah. He was placed on the throne by the Romans, and he was a politician. So, he was around during the time of Cleopatra and all of them. So like if you're trying to get the chronology of history in your brain as far as understanding what was happening during what periods, Herod was around during the time of Mark Antony, Cleopatra, all of them. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, good information. Hallelujah. All right, family. Let me do this. Because I want to tie the theme in of what we're doing here, right? I know that we are moving along through this series, but I want to take y'all back for a second, right? So in the beginning, as we recall, Yah created the heavens and earth. Everything was formless. The spirit of Yahuah was moving on the face of the deep. And at a certain point in time, Yah said, and I'm going to read as it says here. It says, Elohim said, let us create man in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures of the ground. Y'all remember that? And so we have this situation where Yah says that he's going to create man in his image. And he creates Adam from the dust of the earth. He then breathes the breath of life into this created being. He then forms Hawa from the rib of Adam. And then he places them in the midst of the garden, which is called Eden, or which is in the east of Eden. And then he tells them, you have free choice. I've created everything here for you. It is all here to serve your purposes. You are to rule over it and to have dominion, but I'm giving you free choice. And within this place that I created for you, you can access anything here that you like. The only thing that I ask that you don't access is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Within that freedom of choice that Adam and Hawa was given is the understanding of contractual commitment, agreement, obedience, and all of those things that we've been talking about in the Studying Scripture series and all that. All of the foundations of whether or not we are going to be with you because you're covering us and we agree to do as you said, and thereby partake in all of the good things that you've created for us. The foundation of all of that was right there. At the same time, there was a spirit in the earth that was rejecting everything that Yah created and wanted to do because it had a problem and it was rebellious and at enmity with what Yah's plan was. So even though mankind was created from one family, we've seen the example of just with Adam and Hawa's children, Cain and Abel, both choosing either to be obedient or to not be obedient. We see the example of just in Cain and Abel, one choosing to serve Yah and one choosing to serve his own fleshy or carnal desires, because there may have been faster gratification in earthly gain, in immediate gain is what I'm looking for, by him doing something other than what Yah wanted him to do and what Adam, his father, was telling him to do and what his brother was doing. So the inception of the second priesthood, so to speak, started right there. We've seen the same thing as we looked at all of the descendants of Adam and Hawa, and people have split off by their own choice, free choice. They split off by their own choice and decided whether they were going to serve Yah or whether they were going to serve themselves, and by that same rationale, serve the adversary, right? We've seen the same thing even after the flood, just in Noah's family, right? So now we're dealing with a point where the family of mankind had at one point branched out to it being several different families and tribes and all of that. But here we come back to just Noah again and one family. And just with Noah, you have Noah's own sons who have the ability to understand righteousness, obedience, and servitude of Yah, and being a priest of Yah, quite literally, choose, again, their own self-gratification, immediate gain, and lust of the flesh, right? And you've seen that as we've gotten to this point. You've seen the division of people who choose to either follow Yah or not to. We come into the understanding of us being Israelites with a bit of a presumption that it's Israel versus everybody. And I want to submit to you that even among Israel, you see people choosing life or death, righteousness, unrighteousness, the priesthood of Yah, and also that other dark priesthood, right? You've seen Adam's own sons choose two different paths. You've seen Noah's sons choose two different paths. You've seen Abraham's sons not choose Abraham's paths. You've seen Isaac's sons not choose the same path. Do you think that it's a far stretch that Jacob's sons may not all choose the same path? Right? I'm asking you that, and I also want to ask you at the same time, as we discussed last night, do you think it's a far stretch again that within our own families, within our own what we believe to be close circles before we came into the truth, there may be some of us who choose this and some of us who don't, right? As we read through the scripture, we read this term, sons of light and sons of darkness. And what we begin to understand is it is not a bloodline thing. The bloodline gives you the opportunity for an inheritance, but it does not guarantee you that inheritance, if that makes sense. It does not guarantee you that inheritance. And so I just wanted to go back and just kind of, refresh us on what we're looking at and what we're dealing with here, because now we're up to a point where we've read about Jacob choosing a particular path and his brother Esau not choosing that path. And now Jacob has fathered all of these children, 12 sons and one daughter. And within his sons and daughters, we're going to assess where they were at individually and what they were prophesied to do, what they were prophesied to add to this body that Yah chose, and that the master is extending this contractual agreement to as a whole, as a family unit. And so within that family unit, there is a priesthood identified. So a priest among priests. And then we have to see now whether everybody continued along the path they were supposed to continue on. Okay, so that's where we're going. I just want to remind you guys where we're going. But now let's look at Jacob. Let me share my screen. We're looking at Jacob, and we're at a point now where Jacob has born all of these children. Share my screen for you. And he's in the house of Laban, and now Jacob begins to prosper. So let's see what happens as Jacob begins to prosper. And what we're seeing is that Yahuah is with Jacob, right? Jacob is operating in a certain manner, and Yahuah is with Jacob. And we're going to see what it looks like for Yah to be with Jacob, and what it looks like for Esau to be operating on his own, so to speak. Having said of himself, I know my father said I should do this, and my mother said I should do that, but I'm just going to go do this, right? So let's pick up there. We're picking up in Genesis chapter 30, verse 25. We're reading about Jacob's prosperity. Jacob's prosperity. I'm going to read Genesis chapter 30, verses 25 through 43. Verses 25 through 43. And I forgot to ask, can I get someone to volunteer to post the scriptures just in case? I am sharing my screen, but just in case. And thank you in advance. All right, Genesis 30:25, whenever you're ready.
And it came to be, when Rachel had born Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, send me on my way to go to my own place and to my land. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service which I have done for you.
Mm-hmm.
And Laban said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, please stay. For I have diligently watched that Yahuah has blessed me for your sake.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, name me your wages and I'll give them to you.
Okay, pause for a second. So this is Laban saying to Jacob, name your price. He literally says, as you have been in my house working for me, Yah has grown my wealth. And Laban is acknowledging that it's because of Jacob. It's not because of Laban. It's because he recognizes, because Laban knows who Yah is. Remember, this is Sarah's brother, right? So he says, I recognize that Yah is with you. I really don't want you to go. If you could stay and help me grow my wealth a little bit more, name your price, I'll pay. Okay, go ahead.
So he said to him, you know how I have served you and how your livestock has been with me.
Okay.
For the little you had before I came has increased greatly.
This is Jacob talking. Go ahead.
And Yahuah has blessed you since my coming. But now, when am I to provide for my own house?
Good question.
And he said, what do I give you? And Jacob said, give me nothing.
Now that reminds me of Abraham. That's how Abraham operated. When Abraham went into the battle, the battle at the Valley of the Kings, and he went and fought and got Lot and his wife and they found and his sons and daughters and they found his back, and they asked what he wanted. He said, no, don't give me anything. Let it not be said that anything that I got came from you, because I recognize that everything that I get is because of Yah. And so he said the same thing when he's answering Laban and him asking, name your price. He said, no, you don't have to give me nothing. We're gonna let Yah decide what's mine. Go ahead.
If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pass through all your flock today,
Mm-hmm.
removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep,
Mm-hmm.
and all the black ones amongst the lambs,
Mm-hmm.
and the spotted and speckled amongst the goats.
Mm-hmm.
And these shall be my wages.
All right. So look, I'm gonna take all of those ones that look like they ain't quite right off your hands, and I'm gonna leave all the ones that look nice and what they serve you at the grocery store when they be adding all the color to it and all that to make sure it look good. Yeah, you keep all the ones that look good. I'm gonna take the ones that don't look good. Just a little something to wet my beak. Go ahead.
And let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and don't read that. And my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come.
Mm-hmm.
When you come concerning my wages, everyone that is not speckled and spotted amongst the goats and the black amongst the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me.
Mm.
And the man said, see, let it be according to your word.
Hallelujah. That's what you say? You're going to pass through and take the ones that ain't right? Sound good to me. Now, why would Jacob trust Laban? We see that Laban is a schemer. So when he say, you name your price, Laban going to find a way to short him on the price. Go ahead.
And on that day, he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones amongst the lambs,
Mm-hmm.
and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock.
Hurry up and got them on the way so Laban couldn't change his mind. Okay.
And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and of all the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rod.
Mm-hmm.
And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters. in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink. And they conceived with them, and they conceived when they came to drink.
Mhm.
So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted.
Well, what do you know?
And Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face toward the streaked and all the black in the flocks of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves and did not put them with Laban's flocks.
Mhm.
And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flocks conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before their eyes of the flock of the gutters,
Mhm.
so that they conceived among the rods. And when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones were Jacob's.
Okay.
Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys.
Well, let it not be said Jacob was no fool. And so he said what he said, but Jacob already had a mind to get what he felt like he deserved, right? Look, I don't work for this man 7 years to get my wife. He pulled the switcheroo on me, gave me this woman with the weak eyes. Now I done got her and her servant in place of the woman I wanted, made me serve another 7 years for the woman I wanted. And now that I done served him all this time and I'm ready to take my family and go, he talking about, no. Stay work a little longer. I'll make it worth your while. Oh, you gonna make it worth my while. That's basically what he said. And so he did what he did and he got what he got. Let's go to Jasher. Book of Jasher, chapter 31. We're going to read 32 and 33. That's right. That's right, sis. He said, I'll show you. You showed me the rules, and I'm just going to play by the rules you showed me. The book of Jasher, chapter 31. We're going to read verses 32 and 33. Whenever you're ready.
My internet's not working.
Okay. You want me to read it? Or you want to wait for it? Is it close? Okay. Jasher chapter 31, starting with verse 32, and it reads, and Jacob had 200 drove of cattle. That's not 200 cattle. I don't think that's saying 200 cattle. It's saying 200 drove of cattle. And his cattle were of large size and beautiful appearance and were very productive, meaning of the ones he had, now they're producing very well. They're not having any problem conceiving, multiplying. They're becoming duplicitous. Chapter 31. And they're very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle from Jacob. So now he got a booming business. He's industrious, just like that. Not only does he have cattle, but he has a business, okay? For they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of men came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them a sheep for a manservant, or a maidservant, or for an ass, or for a camel, or whatever Jacob desired from them, they gave him. So now what's happening at that point, what they're saying in short is Jacob was able to now grow his wealth by what he worked for in the house of Laban. And at the time that this is going on, now Jacob is growing even past what Laban afforded him, right? Because now he's out there trading and bartering, okay? Let's go back to Genesis 31. Genesis 31, 1 through 3. Genesis chapter 31, verses 1 through 3. So what is the response of Laban to seeing Jacob become so prosperous and grow in his wealth? He gonna be happy for him, right?
Yeah. It's his son-in-law.
That's his son-in-law. He's got his daughters, so nothing but the best for the best, right?
Yeah.
But let's see. Verses 1 through 3. Whenever you're ready.
And he heard the words of Laban's son saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all his wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban and see that it was not toward him as before. And Yahuah said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives. I am with you.
Okay. Now, let's not gloss over what we're reading, because let's keep everything in context. We're dealing with a situation where you're reading the background information about why all of these people have issues with Israel today. So you just read that not even Laban, now you got Laban's children saying that Jacob has taken what should have been ours, basically, from our father, and now look at Jacob. I don't like Jacob. Well, wait a minute. Them your nieces and nephews Jacob raising over there. You should be happy for them, right? What, you mad? What 50 say? I thought that you'd be happy. I made. Yeah. Why they not happy? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So then Jacob is able to look at Laban after hearing all the murmurings of Laban's children, and he like, ooh, Laban don't care for me. I see him souring toward me, and whereas Laban was, looking out for my welfare and safety and well-being, I might need to go ahead and skedaddle, right? And Yah says to Jacob, look, you're right. You have assessed the situation correctly. It's time for you to move. I'm with you. And that's the key.
Autobots, roll out.
Autobots, roll out. That's right. It's time for you to move. Your job here is done. You've accomplished what I sent you here to accomplish. What your mother sent you here to accomplish. Remember, she said, don't take a woman from of these Canaanitish people around here. Go to my brother. Get somebody who was from my family to marry. And that's exactly what he did. Now he's married these women from Laban's. He's grown a family, and there's no longer any need for him to stay there. He can now go back home, right? Okay. Going back to Joshua 31. Let's read about Jacob's exodus from Laban. Picking up in verse 38, the book of Jasher, chapter 31, picking up in verse 38, we're going to read to 46, 38 to 46. Whenever you're ready.
And Jacob rose up at the time, and he mounted his children and wives and all belonging to him upon the camels. And he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him. For Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images. And she took them and concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat. And she went on. Now
pause. When you read this from the KJV, we read about this, right? We read about this. So this is not a different story from what's in the KJV. But the reason we're reading it from Jasher is because Jasher is going to tell you what kind of image and what this image was all about. And the reason I think is interesting is because I'm sure you can draw some parallels, each of us, with something we know about in today's world or understanding. Even if it's not something that you personally do or I do, or even something that you did, I'm sure you can draw parallels to something you've seen, heard about, even if it was in a movie, somebody having something along the lines of what she took out. And obviously she had some faith in it. And we was talking, I don't mean to get sidetracked, but we was talking about Rachel last time we did this study, and about how Rachel might have been a little bit of a headache to Jacob at a few different points in a relationship. Here's one of those points, in my opinion. Okay, go ahead.
And this is the manner of the image. In taking a man who is the firstborn and slaying him.
I'm sorry, just 1 second. Let's tell him to go ahead and lay in his bed. Please. Yes, please. Thank you. You're too close to the mic. All right. Thank you, sir. I apologize. We lost one. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. In taking a man who is the firstborn and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in oil, then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, the lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it.
I want to make sure we understand what we're reading. You take the firstborn, you cut his head off. Then you take a tablet of copper or gold and put salt on it with some anointing oil, like it's anything set apart about what you're doing. Soak it in some salt and stick it under the tongue of the head you cut off. Take it in your house, sit it on the mantle, and stick a light inside of it to light that head up. And then what you do after that? After you light that head up?
Bow down to it.
And bow down to it. Okay, and 42.
And at the time when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all matters that they ask of it, through the power of the name which is written in it.
Wow.
And some make them in the figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them. And the figures receive the influence of the stars and tell them future things. And in this manner were the images which Rachel stole from her father. Okay,
so some people have actual heads. Some people use carvings of actual men and stuff like that. But some even have taken them now and you make it a smaller image, right? And maybe you put it on a necklace. But at the time when you need to inquire about something or a blessing, you inquire of this image and you ask of it. And it receives influence from the astronomy, the stars. And then it leads you and gives you an answer as to what you're asking it about. There's a whole bunch of different variations of this, right? Again, I go back to the patron saints that, in Catholicism, people call on when they talk about the patron saint of travel, the patron saint of this, that, and other. It's always a little head that you kissing and crossing and asking about and praying to. Or think about an actual bust, right? Most people believe it's a good thing to have, the heads on Mount Rushmore. But this is kind of the origins of that type of stuff. Most people think it's a good thing to have the statue of Martin Luther King or a statue of Malcolm X, or even a picture of Obama, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and let's not forget you got to have John F. Kennedy Jr. on your wall. That's a good thing. And Jesus, right? And that's a good thing. And you put, but this is a pagan thing to have those images or those busts of an individual, especially if you're giving reverence to them like they're anything, like they have any power, like I draw connections with the Boondocks because the Boondocks made points in an ironic and humorous way, but it was still social commentary. When Uncle Ruckus is running around talking about praise white Jesus, while looking at the white Jesus picture on his wall, this is kind of what I envision in today's society, us doing something like that, right? It's the same thing. Even if you had a so-called black Jesus, you was not supposed to have Jesus's head on your wall or on your mantle and then be praying to it as if it was anything. Even if you called it Yehoshua. That image is something that we was never supposed to do. That go back to your 10 Commandments. And so this is what Lot was doing, even though Lot knew Yah, knew Elohim, and this is what Rachel was doing. This is what Rachel was doing. Okay? Let's see what happened after that.
And Laban came home And he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found.
Mhm.
And Laban saw his images to know where Jacob had gone, and he could not find them. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him that Jacob had fled from him to his father
I'm
to
sorry.
land of Canaan.
I'm sorry. Let's go back to 44. You skipped 44.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's just I want to make sure we get the point of why she took him. And then you can go back to where you left off.
And Rachel stole these images, which were her father's, in order that the band might not know through them where Jacob had gone.
Okay. So she felt like the image that she stole, or the images that she stole, had the power to conceal from her father that they had left and would help conceal where they were at so her father couldn't track them down.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave them the power to be able to stop her father from catching them. And I think it's ironic that the fact that they were missing is exactly how he knew they were gone. Okay. And then when he realized they were gone, he just went to some different images and said, well, where they at and what they do.
So what he was at.
So these images actually had some power. There obviously were some spirits, some demonic entities that were in communication with Laban some kind of way, because Laban was able to find out from these images where Jacob and his children had gone. And that's how he started to pursue them. Go ahead.
And Laban then rose up, and he took his brothers and his servants,
Mm-hmm.
and he went forth and pursued Jacob. And he overtook him in Mount Gilead.
Okay. So he found them in Mount Gilead. Let's go to Genesis 31, picking up in 24. Genesis 31, 24 through 37. Whenever you're ready.
But in a dream by night, Yahuah came to Laban, and Laban the Aramean,
Mhm.
and said to him, guard yourself that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil.
Mm-hmm.
Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead.
Mm-hmm.
And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done that you have deceived me and driven my daughters off like captives taken with the sword?
Okay. So he catches up with him and he says, now y'all done already warned him. And the interesting thing is, he didn't say only speak good things to him. He said, don't speak evil or good. Watch yourself. Right? And so he says, why have you deceived me and driven my daughters off as if they were captives taken by the sword? As if they were. And that's very key because it's going to come back up later on. Go ahead.
Why did you flee secretly and deceive me
Mm-hmm.
and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourines and lyres.
Right.
And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters.
Uh-huh.
Now you have been foolish to do this.
Uh-huh.
It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you.
Uh-huh.
But Elohim of your father spoke to me last night saying, watch yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that you do not speak evil nor good to Jacob.
And I let you know he really trying, because he letting him know what I really want to do is A and B. But because I believe that the Elohim of Abraham probably will leave me laying here stinking. I'm just telling you. Go ahead.
And now you have gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones?
Right. I'm just saying, you ain't have to take my gods, because that's what that's translating to. These were his gods. Right? Go ahead.
And Jacob answered and said to him, because I was afraid, for I said, least you tear your daughters away from me.
Okay.
With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let them live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me and take it with you.
Huh.
For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them.
Hold up. Wait a minute. So, first of all, I felt like if I'd have told you I was going, you probably would have tried some kind of way to take what I have from me. That's kind of been your track record. Okay. Now, as far as these guys, look, man, with any one of these brothers you find that guy with, kill him. Because I don't want to with me no way. He had no inclination that it was going to be with his wife. Goodness gracious. Go ahead.
And Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tents of the two female servants, but he did not find them.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out of Leah's tent and into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the house idols and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them.
Hmm.
And Laban searched all about the tent but did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my master that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me."
Hmm.
And he searched, but he did not find the house idols.
The way of women is with me, huh? Okay.
Then normally throw the man out the hunt.
Oh, yeah. Dead in the tracks. Screech! Go ahead.
And Jacob was wroth and contended with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my transgression? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me?"
Now that he ain't found nothing, now Jacob can go ahead. No, nobody got a guy, right? Nobody got one of the guys. Okay, and now he can go ahead and express what he feeling. Okay.
"Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found in all of your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two.
Now you got me standing here on the side of the road, like somebody on a road trip on I-20 with all their junk pulled out of their car while they tossing your car and cutting up your tires and cutting up your seat and trying to figure out where you stashed the goods at, and you ain't found nothing. You ain't found nothing. Okay. So he say, look, man, let this be the judge that you didn't find anything. Skip to 41. Let's go 41 through 48.
Which chapter?
This is Genesis 31, 41 through 48, whenever you're ready.
"These 20 years I have been in your house.
Mm-hmm.
I served you 14 years for your two daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and 6 years for your flock.
Mm-hmm.
You have changed my wages 10 times.
This is how you do me. At the 14 years for your daughters and another. So when they made that deal, when he started separating them, that was another 6 years of service. Another 6 years of growing Laban's wealth while growing his own, of course. But another 6 years, and this is how you do me. Okay?
Unless the power of my father and the power of Abraham and the fear of Isaac have been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed.
That's right.
My power has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night.
Mm.
And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters."
Now listen to Laban. Because Jacob pretty much was yelling at his father-in-law. And his father yelled right back. He said, "These are my daughters." What else he said?
"And these children are my children.
These are my children.
And this flock is my flock.
This is my flock."
And all that you see is mine.
Mm.
But what should I do today to these, my daughters, or to their children whom they have born?
Okay.
And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and me.
Yeah.
And it shall be a witness between you and me.
Okay, let's because you really get me upset right now. And I'm back to wanting to put hands on you, but let's de-escalate this. Let's make a covenant. Kind of like what we seen happen with Abraham and Abimelech, right? And then with Isaac and Abimelech. Was it Isaac or Jacob?
Isaac.
They seen Yah's blessing them, right? They said, Yah is obviously with you. I may want to do something to you, but it would be best for me that I make a covenant of peace with you. And by making a covenant with peace with you, maybe I have peace with your mighty one as well. And so that's what he's saying. Like, I really want to put hands on you, but look, this is what I'm gonna do. Let's just make a covenant right here that it's peace between us, and we'll just go our separate ways. Go ahead.
And now come. Okay, and so Jacob took a stone and set it up as a standing column.
Uh-huh.
And Jacob said to his brothers, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap.
Mm-hmm.
And Laban called it Yegar Satuti, but Jacob called it Gilead.
Okay.
And Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today.
Uh-huh.
That is why it was called Gilead.
All right. So that heap is the witness that you and I got a covenant between each other. I'm not going to do no harm to you, even though I may want to. And you
keep your power away from me.
Keep your power from doing any harm to me. Okay. Let's see what happens next. Let's go to Jubilees 29. Jubilees chapter 29, verses 9 through 12. Jubilees chapter 29. I think it's kind of cheating for me to put my notes up on the screen and share with y'all, because you see my little heading breaks here, so you can read what's coming before we get to it. But it's all good. Okay. 9 through 12. Jubilees 29, whatever you're ready.
Okay, Jubilees 29.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm at 29. Okay, here we go. All right, do we start with, but before they used to call the land?
Perfect.
But before they used to call the land Gilead, the land of the Rephaim,
mm-hmm.
for it was the land of the Rephaim.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rephaim was born there. Giants whose height was 10, 9, 8, down to 7 cubits.
Okay.
And their habitation was from the land of the children of Ammon to Mount Hermon.
Mm-hmm.
And the seats of their kingdoms were Karnaim and Ashtaroth and Idri and Misor and Beon.
Now, this kind of ties into what we were talking about in the last study in the scriptures discussion that we had, whereas this land was called that because of who was there. It was the land of the Rephaim. So it was being acknowledged by those people who were passing through that. No, this is that place where they lived at, and here's the borders of where they had, and Mount Hermon is right there again, in the midst of it. Go ahead with 11.
And the master destroyed them because of the evil of their deeds, for they were very malignant, and the Amorites dwelt in their stead. Okay. Wicked and sinful. And there is no people today which has wrought to the full of all their sins. And they have no longer length of life on earth. Okay, so these Amorites are dwelling in the place where these Rephaim were, and something that these Amorites is doing is saying it's so wicked that even to this day, people ain't doing nothing more wicked than what they was doing then. Well, and he passed. And Jacob sent away. Okay. And Jacob sent away Laban, and he departed into Mesopotamia, the land of the east. And Jacob returned to the land of Gilead. Okay. Hallelujah. All right. Let's go back to Jasher. Going to the book of Jasher, verse 31. Picking up at verse 53. Verse 53. And we're going to finish, I think that's finishing out the chapter 77. Jasher, chapter 31, verse 53 to 77. Okay, whenever you're ready. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifices upon the mount, and they ate there by the heap. And they tarried in the mount all night, and Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters, and he kissed them, and he returned unto his place. Right. Now that's where the extent of this exchange ends in the Standard 66. Again, we're reading it from Jasher because you see just how dirty Laban was right here.
is going to tell you exactly how dirty he was. So what did he do next? After he left, they made the peace covenant, peace between me and you. Shalom, shalom, brother, nephew, son-in-law, whatever. Nephew, I got you. No harm come to you. And he went on his way. But what did he do? Go ahead, 54.
Wow, I just realized something. See if you catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And he hastened, and sent off his son Beor, who was 17 years old, with Abercroft, the son of Uz, the son of Nahor, and with them were 10 men.
Talking about Beor?
What's Balaam's father's?
Was Beor Balaam's father?
That was Balaam.
There you go.
So you wonder what his hate for
and that's exactly the sentiment that I'm trying to get at, is that all of these people who we had exchanges with as we passed through in our travels to and from, they left with deep-rooted hatred for us for one reason or another. The short version of why is simply they did not like the relationship we had with Elohim, but it was them who chose not to have a relationship with Elohim. They chose to have a relationship with other deities, lesser deities, gods and powers. And because it didn't turn out for them the way that they think it should turn out, they mad at Jacob because Jacob is prospering. I got somebody, and I don't want to make this about me, but I got somebody in my history that said to me one time, me and my wife was packing up to go to Chicago on a trip from down south, and we was getting our van checked out, and it was some issues, but we were trying to decide whether or not it was issues that would prevent us from going, or whether or not we was going to go ahead and go for it, step out on faith. And checked it out, man. I'm like, well, I think we can make it, you know. And the mechanic looked at me, looked at my wife, children, you know, looked my wife up and down a little bit. Like, yeah, you'll probably make it because you lucky. And he know me. He know my family and my history and all of that. And it was just like you know the scripture to say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the abundance of jealousy, it just spilled out, you know, kind of in a seething manner that you jealous. And that's what Jacob was dealing with in a lot of these instances. That's what Joseph dealt with a lot as well. But that's what Israel dealt with in a lot of instances. I'll give you another example. Somebody shared this white lady doing a TikTok. I hate to use the term white. It was a Gentile lady, but she was Caucasian, and she was sharing a self-observation that she had about herself. She said she was going through a teaching class or training, and there was a Black woman in the class. And she said during the time they were doing their training, she said this Black woman, this Hebrew lady, excelled beyond her in every aspect of the class. She said, I mean, everything, you know, whether it was organizing the class, whether it was lesson planning, whether it was everything. The Black lady, she said, and as she was excelling, I'm paying attention to her, and something about her excelling and everything that she didn't sit right with me. It just didn't sit right with me. And she said, this is, and she kind of, you know, leaned toward the screen. She said, this is before I learned about self-internalized racism or something like that. The term, she said, I can't remember. But she said she had to go and do some deep self-searching. And what she found was she came to the realization that what she has consumed up to this point in her life, by way of social media, by way of television, movies, and programming, has told her that the white woman is the center of everything. The Black woman is there to aid and assist the white woman. In every television show that she watched, in every movie that she watched, even when the movie was about Black people, she gave the example as the help. The help. The movie is about Black people, But the white woman is still in the position in the movie that the black woman's role is to aid and assist her. So her self-actualization of what she has consumed has subconsciously put her in a mental state where she thinks that in her life, black women should be aiding and assisting her. And so when this black woman excelled her, she couldn't figure out why it was digging at her. And she realized it was jealousy. She realized that it was jealousy because she was not understanding why this black woman was excelling instead of assisting her. Right? And so that's what's going on, family. The blood remembers. The blood remembers. And these nations and these nationalities of people who have chosen something different, and their parents have chosen something different, and they've passed their inheritance, which is this earth, this world, and what the adversary is able to give them right here and now, are saying, I'm sitting up here with everything that I could desire, and you down here, but something about the way you operate, when I see you push past all of the obstacles, I say that being funny, that we've put in your way, all of the chains that we've shackled with, all of the burdens that we've heaped on you, mentally, physically, and spiritually. We put all of these things in your way, and somehow, with a 250-year lead ahead of you in this race, when we pull the trigger on that starting gun, you have managed to catch up and then surpass us. And we have a problem with that. That's what's going on. But I digress. Okay. Where do we leave off?
Beor being Laban's son at 17.
Beor, the father of
Balaam.
Balaam. There you go. So save that in your mental notes or write it in your physical notes. Go ahead.
With Abimelech, the son of Uts, the son of Nahor, and with them were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob. And they came by another road to the land of Seir.
Uh-huh.
And they came unto Esau and said unto him, Thus says thy brother and relative, thy mother's brother Laban, and the son of Bethuel, saying, hast thou heard that Jacob thy brother has done unto me?
This was low down. This is low down. Now you just made a covenant with Jacob that you was going to leave Jacob in peace. So you did some real Jewish mess, and I mean that in the actual sense of the word, not in the sense of us. Because this is real like something that you see the Ish people do. Since I said I'm not going to do it with my hand, I'm going to do it using somebody else's hand. I'm going to hide my hand and pretend like it wasn't me who initiated this because I made a promise. Go ahead. This is dirty. Slow down.
Who first came to me naked and bare. And I went to meet him and brought him to my house with honor and made him great. And I gave him my 2 daughters for wives and also 2 of my maids. And Yahuah blessed him on my account. Now
he done flipped the whole script. He just admitted that he understood earlier that he was the one being blessed by Yah on the account of Jacob. But in his telling Esau, look what he did. Go ahead.
He increased him abundantly and had sons and daughters and maidservants, and has also an immense stock of flocks and herds, camels and asses, also silver and gold in abundance. And when he saw that his wealth had increased, he left me while I went to shear my sheep. And he rose up and fled in secrecy. And he lifted his wives and children upon camels, and he led away all his cattle and property which he acquired in my land. And he lifted up his countenance to go to his father Isaac, to the land of Canaan. And he did not suffer me to kiss my daughters and my children. And he led my daughters as captives, taken by the sword. And he also stole my gods and fled.
Now he done spun this to Esau like he literally took his daughters as slaves and captives. Like he took them against their will away from their father. That's how he done spun this. Go ahead.
And now I have left him in the mountains of the brook of Jabbok, him and all belonging to him. He lacketh nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If it be thy wish to go to him, go then, and there will you find him.
Okay.
And thou can do unto him anything you desire.
Wow.
And the band messengers came and told Esau all these things.
Wow.
And Esau heard the words of the band messengers, and his anger was greatly kindled against Jacob.
I bet it was.
And he remembered his hatred,
mm-hmm.
and his anger burned within him.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau hastened and took his children and servants and the souls of his household, being 60 men.
Mm-hmm.
And he went and he assembled all the children of Seir,
mm-hmm.
the Horites, and their people,
mm-hmm.
being 340 cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
And he took all this number of 400 men with drawn swords, and he went unto Jacob to smite him.
So he's coming to kill Jacob. And not only is Esau coming to kill Jacob, it's okay. Not only is Esau coming to kill Jacob, but Esau is now training his children, right? That they should have a hatred for Jacob and Jacob's children. Because what Jacob has done to me, I hate him for. And now we see Jacob has a pattern. Jacob had went and done the same thing to Laban. And now let me go get Seir, the Horite. Because I done married one of his daughters anyway, right? He married into the Horites. And now let Seir get your children. Unless your children begin a tradition of hate of Jacob and his children, right? And let's all go and deal with Jacob, because Jacob got a problem, and I'm the one that's going to set him straight. Mm-hmm. This is the spirit of Esau. This is the spirit of the nations that are confederate against Yahshua or Israel, right? Okay. So now he got 400 men. And a lot of these men are their sons who are of the age of battle. We don't read about whether or not Jacob's sons are at the age of battle just yet. And I would submit to you that they're probably close to it, but maybe not quite. But it may not even matter. Let's keep reading.
And Esau divided this number into several parts. Mm-hmm. And he took the 60 men of his children and the servants of the souls of his household as one head. Mm-hmm. And he gave them care of Elisaphaz, his oldest son. Mm-hmm. And the remaining heads he gave to the care of the 6 sons of Seir, the Horite. Mm-hmm. And he placed every man over his generation and children. Mm-hmm. And the whole of his camp went as it was. And Esau went amongst them toward Jacob. And he conducted them with speed. So
they moving. Not only are they on the way to get Jacob, but he moving with a passion.
Purpose.
Trying to get to him right now. I don't want him to get away, is how he moving. Okay?
And the band's messenger departed from Esau and went to the land of Canaan.
What?
And they came to the house of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau.
No, that's Yah. Because Laban didn't tell them to do that. They went and did what Laban told them to do. They didn't disobey their master. But then they also redirected and went to Rebekah. That's Yah. And what did they do when they got to Rebekah?
And they told her, saying, Behold, thy son Esau has gone against his brother Jacob with 400 men.
Wow, man.
For he heard that he was coming, and he is gone to make war with him, and to smite him, and to take all that he has.
Take back his blessing. Go ahead.
And Rebekah hastened and sent 72 men from the servants of Isaac to meet Jacob on the road.
Okay.
For she said, peradventure, Esau make war in the road when he meets him.
So these 72 men that was Isaac's servants may have also been armed in order to help protect Jacob. In Rebekah's estimation, not only do I need to get to him with a message, but let me get to him with some protection, because I don't quite know the state that he in. Let not Esau kill my son.
And don't forget who in Isaac's household.
Yes.
You know the warrior he got in his household and his children.
Whose name is?
Eliezer.
Eleazar. But going to show you something about him in just a second.
Okay. And these messengers,
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
and these messengers went on the road to meet Jacob, and they met him in the road on the brook, on the opposite side of the brook, Jabbok.
Okay.
And Jacob said when he saw them, this camp is destined to me from Yahuah.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob called the name of that place MashiYahch.
So he felt like there was a blessing to see his father's servants coming to him. And he felt like this was of Yah. I don't know what's happening, but I feel like this is of Yah. Go ahead.
And Jacob knew all of his father's people.
Them is the kinfolk. Kinfolk. Mashpika.
He kissed them and he embraced them and he came with them.
Yep.
And Jacob asked them concerning his father and mother, and they said they were well.
Right.
And these messengers said unto Jacob, Rebekah thy mother has sent us to thee, saying, I have heard, my son, that thy brother Esau has gone forth against thee on the road with men from the children of Seir, the Horite.
Mm.
And therefore, my son, hearken to my voice and see with thy counsel that thou wilt do, and when he cometh up to thee.
See with thy counsel what thou will do. Look, figure this out. They coming, and they coming fast. Go ahead.
Supplicate him, and do not speak rashly to him, and give him a present from what thou possessest, and from what Yahuah has favored thee with.
So don't antagonize him, is what she said. Don't antagonize. He's already pissed off. Don't antagonize him. Go ahead.
And when he asks thee concerning thy affairs, conceal nothing from him.
Okay.
Perhaps he may turn from his anger against thee, and thou wilt therefore save thy soul, thou and all belonging to thee. For it is thy duty to honor him, for he is thy elder brother.
There you go.
And when Jacob heard the words of his mother, which the messenger had spoken to him, Jacob lifted up his voice and wept bitterly, and did as his mother then commanded him.
Hallelujah. So she's telling him, look, bless your brother with some of the blessings that you got. Because that's what he's upset about. He's upset that you have gone away and come back blessed, because he has not forgotten the feeling that he had when you left. Laban didn't help by bringing it all back to his mind, but that's what he's upset about. But he is your older brother. Honor him, bless him, and maybe his anger will subside, is what she's saying. Now, Jacob cries out and weeps about it. And I don't know if he's weeping because he's in fear that his brother's coming, or if he's weeping because he feel like he shouldn't have to give his brother this. But either way, he does what his mother commands. I guess you could take that either way. I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think he weep? Anger or fear?
Probably fear. Fear because he feel like he can't get a break. He just dealt with Laban, and then now this. So probably fear and frustration.
Okay. Let's go back to the book of Genesis 32, picking up at verse 1 through 5. Genesis chapter 32, 1 through 5. So the plot thickens. What happens if these two brothers come head to head? Go ahead.
And Jacob went on his way, and the messenger of Yahuah met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, say this to my master Esau. Your servant Jacob said this, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have bulls and donkeys, flocks and male and female servants. And I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes.
So Jacob is doing exactly what his mother suggested, right? He is met with the messengers of Elohim, the angels, the Melakim. And at that camp, after crying out in supplication, he sends out to Esau, and he's telling him, look, man, it's been a minute. Look at all the stuff I got. Let me give to you as a blessing to you, as a it's another word I'm looking for. I can't think of it. Well, but as a
honoring.
Yeah, to honor you, some of what I have, right? Whatever you need. He got bulls, donkeys, servants, male and female, whatever you need. Okay. Let's go to Jasher to see Esau's response. Jasher 31. Jasher 31, 9 through 12. How did Esau respond initially to Jacob's gift, or his suggestion to honor him with his gifts? Jasher 31, 9 through 12, whenever you're ready.
Okay. And the neighbors spoke these words.
And Esau answered. Jasher 31.
Jasher 31.
You know, I figured I might miss one at some point. Let me see. Make sure I got the right place, family. Give me 1 second.
It's Jasher 32:9.
32. So hold on. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Fix that on my screen too. All right, Torah, Koti. All right.
And Esau answering them with pride and contempt, and said unto them, Surely I have heard, and truly it has been told unto me what Jacob has done to Laban, who exalted him in his house, and gave him his daughters for wives, and begat sons and daughters, and abundantly increased in wealth and riches in Laban's house through his means. And when he saw that his wealth was abundant and his riches great, he fled with all belonging to him from Laban's house, and he led Laban's daughters away from the face of their father as captives taken by the sword without telling him of it. And not only to Laban has Jacob done thus, but also unto me. And has he done so, and he has twice supplanted me. And shall I be silent about this? Now, therefore, I have this day come with my camp to meet him, and I will do unto him according to the desire of my heart.
In other words, you're going to get this work today. He said, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear it. You could save all that.
I'm bringing this heat.
You know what I'm coming for.
Heat.
And whatever you talking about ain't stopping this what's coming.
No limit soldier, player.
And he say, I'm bringing me and my camps. So not just me, I got camps. We gonna thoroughly listen, man. So he viewed his brother as a thug. Like, you done stole from me, you done stole from my uncle.
He probably think he doing just justice.
Yeah. Yeah, in his mind, in his heart.
We always forget what we did in the matter to bring on the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's go back to Genesis 32, 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
32, verses 6 and 7.
And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed.
Genesis 32?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I told you my eyes was burning while I was putting this together. One second.
Oh, wait. 6 and 7.
Uh-oh.
So the message is,
no,
it was, yeah.
Okay, let me get back to it.
Israel told me about it. Okay.
Okay, Genesis 32, 6 and 7. Go ahead.
So the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into 2 groups.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So Jacob now has the response. He understands that his brother ain't stopping his. And so now he said, okay, well, we need to take some measures here. He divides them into 2 camps. Let's read about this division real quick. So hold Genesis 32. We're coming right back. Go back to Joshua 31 and read 24. Read about this division of these 2 camps real quick. This should be interesting. Joshua 31, verse 24, whenever you're ready.
And Jacob ceased praying to the Most High, and he divided the people that were with him with the flocks and cattle into 2 camps. And he gave the half to the care of Damascus, the son of Eliezer, Abraham's servant, for a camp with his children, and the other half he gave in the care of his brother Elanius, the son of Eliezer, to be for a camp with his children.
Okay, hallelujah. So now, Red was making a reference to Eleazar, which was Abraham's servant. And y'all remember how bad Eleazar was? Eleazar was the one that Abraham felt was his right hand. When Abraham needed, that he got from Nimrod. That's right. When Abraham needed something taken care of, if he had to go on a long journey, even if it was dangerous, he knew that Eleazar was capable to go there, get it done, and get back, no matter what the task. And so Rib and I actually were theorizing that this servant to the priest king Abraham at that time, if we're looking at this as a Melchizedekian situation. So let me rephrase that. Let me reiterate that. Rib and I were theorizing. That means this is my opinion. So I don't get in trouble with nobody else watching the video later saying he said this and he don't say that nowhere. That this servant that was the most trusted servant to the priest king Abraham may have been a family inheritance at this point. And we were theorizing, do you remember? We talked about that, that Eleazar's sons also probably were servants to Abraham's children, but in the same capacity, where they would send them to do the most important and sometimes dangerous thing because they knew they could be trusted, even with their lives, and would always come back task accomplished. And so what we just read here is that in Jacob's most dire, concerning situation, he has now divided his property and his family and his children up to 2 camps. And he has put one entrusted to one of Eleazar's sons and one entrusted to the other of Eleazar's sons, and saying, I know that Eleazar's sons are going to afford me the best opportunity that my property and my children and my wives don't die. That's what just happened. Okay.
Yeah. Which make you wonder about Caleb.
It does. It does. Makes you wonder about a lot. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to Genesis 32, picking back up in verse 8. Genesis 32, 8. We're going to take that through verse 21. Okay. Genesis chapter 32, verses 8 through 21. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. And he said, if Esau comes to the one group and strikes it, then the other group, which is left, shall escape. And Jacob said, O Elohim of my fathers, Abraham, and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahuah, who said to me, return to your land and to your relatives.
You told me to do this.
And I do good to you.
And you said you would be with me. We read that earlier.
I do not deserve the least of all the loving commitment. I do not deserve the least of all the loving commitment and all the truth which you have shown your servant. For I passed over this Yarden with my staff,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have become two groups.
Mm-hmm.
Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and he shall strike me and my mother with the children,
And the
mother with the children.
Mm-hmm.
For you said, I shall certainly do good to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I shall make your seed as the sand of the sea,
There you go.
which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there and took what came to his hand as a present from Esau, his brother.
Okay.
200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams,
Mm-hmm.
30 suckling camels and their coats, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 fowls. And he gave into the hand of his servant every drove by itself, and said to his servant, pass over before me and put some distance between drove and drove.
Uh-huh.
And he commanded the first one, saying, when Esau, my brother, meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong? And where are you going? And whose are these in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
Then you shall say, they are your servant Jacob's.
Mm-hmm.
It is a present sent to my master Esau. And see, he also is behind us.
Mm-hmm.
So he commanded the second and the third, and all who followed the drove, saying, speak to Esau this same word when you find him.
Mm-hmm.
And you shall say, also, look, your servant Jacob is behind us.
Mm-hmm.
For he said, let me appease him with the presence that goes before me. And after that, see his face, he might accept me.
Mm-hmm.
And the presence passed over before him, but he himself spent the night in the camp.
So he spent the night there, first of all, beseeching Abba Yah, going back over in his mind all the promises that Yah made, whether or not he kept up his end of the agreement thus far, and asking Yah to protect him and to protect his children and to protect the mothers of his children. And then after beseeching Abba Yah all that night, then he got up and started separating, and he said, look, what is all of this that I have, physical possessions, if I don't have my life, my wife, and my children? Esau can have it all. And so he starts organizing them in these camps, in these droves, as they put it, waves, separate from another with space in between them, so that they reach Esau on the way with gaps in between them. And he said, look, hopefully these gifts will break the ice with Esau. And as you saying, oh, this is all from Jacob as gifts, even though he said he didn't want them, hopefully I can turn Esau's heart by giving him these gifts and he won't be mad at me. Let me tell you something. That would never go work. That's never going to work. Look, Esau upset about what he upset about. Giving ain't going to do it. Okay? But he tried. But the most important thing, he tried because his mother told him to. So that was a good thing. But the most important thing that we see that Jacob did here, and he did it over and over, is he kept going back to Yah. We read that he tarried there all night, that night before, and there he is again. He went back to Yah again. It's like, okay, something I'm missing here, because you said you was going to be with me, and here Esau is still threatening me, right? So he prayed again, but as he getting up, now it's like, okay, well, I got to move forward, because you still told me I got to go, so here I go. We got to understand here that this is a microcosm of this thing that we're talking about, sons of light versus sons of darkness. This is playing out on a small scale, but the big picture is that's what we're looking at spiritually with those of us that's trying to do the will of Yah, and those that don't care about doing the will of Yah, but still have a problem with us, not because we're trying to impose anything on them, but because we simply trying to do the will of Yah. It's perceived as a threat still for some reason. And it's a lot of things you could draw from that. You could draw from that the fact that you still being blessed, like the white lady said, when she feel like she the one supposed to be being blessed. You can draw from that the blood is remembering. You can draw from that something Red was talking about earlier, which is the fact that they understand and feel that this is all coming to a head and it's getting there very fast. And they don't like it and they want to do something about it. Hence why they don't want you to teach children in public schools about anything related to Black history or any kind of critical thinking, because they might piece this thing together and realize they are who they are. And if we are who we are, then it means they who are they are. And they don't want to be told about who they are and what they're going to get when this all comes to a close.
Be exposed.
Exactly. So how does this play out? Let's go back to Jasher. So while Jacob is there tarrying and making plans, what happens? Let's go to Jasher. 31, picking up at 26.
Okay.
The book of Jasher, chapter 31, picking up at verse 26. We're going to take it to the limit one more time. Verse 40. Take it to the limit. Whenever you're ready.
And Jacob tarried there that night, and during the whole night he gave his servants instructions concerning the forces and his children.
Right.
And the Most High heard the prayer of Jacob on that day. And the master then delivered Jacob from the hands of his brother Esau.
So it says right then, he heard his prayer and he was delivered right then. That's the spiritual aspect, right? But then it happens on the physical realm. Okay, go ahead.
And the master sent 3 angels of the angels of heaven, and they went before Esau and came to him.
Okay.
And these angels appeared unto Esau and his people as 2,000 men.
Esau got 400.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Riding upon horses, furnished with all sorts of war instruments. And they appeared in the sight of Esau and all his men to be divided into 4 camps, with 4 chiefs to them.
Listen, when I read this, and every time I read this, when I read as 2,000 men riding upon horses furnished with all sorts of war implements, and they appeared in the sight, I envision, just dastardly, drastically fearsome warriors. Like, I can't even put into words. You were right.
Coming out the horse's nose.
All kind of things dangling and jingling, red eyes, fire breathing,
kicking up dust, and earth shaking,
snarling.
Come down.
Yeah.
All
that.
Yeah.
All that. Like worse than what 3,000 could have imagined. But yeah. All that. Horses breathing smoke and fire. Everybody mad. Ain't no smiles nowhere.
Everybody fleeing out the path in fear of being trampled by the mighty beast.
Yeah.
They was on stallions.
Yeah.
War horses.
War horses. That's right. That's what I picture when I read that. Okay, go ahead.
And one camp went out, and they found Esau coming with his 400 men.
So now they're divided into droves, like Jacob was telling his people to divide into droves.
Right.
So now these 2,000 warriors, spiritual warriors, is divided into droves, 4 camps. Okay.
So remember Esau and them. Now remember Esau and them ride with haste
and hatred.
They
haste
about
and
that
hatred.
life. They
That's
got
right.
Mr. P playing in the background.
We some thugs. Yeah. You don't wanna
go to war with you. They ride now.
They with the tank. Army, the Navy, all that. Go ahead.
And one camp went on, and they found Esau coming with 400 men toward his brother Jacob. And this camp ran toward Esau and his people and terrified them.
Ran toward him. Go ahead.
And Esau fell off his horse in alarm. And all his men separated from him in that place. They ain't with him. For they were greatly afraid. And the whole camp. Okay. And the whole camp shouted after them when they fled from Esau. And all the warlike men answered, saying, surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Yahuah.
Okay.
And who then shall stand against us?
Okay.
And Esau said unto them, not me, brother.
You my brother people. Okay. You my brother kinfolk. Got you.
But Esau said unto them, oh, then my master and brother Jacob is your master. That's what he's talking about.
Got you.
He said, whom I ain't seen him in about 20 years. He said, and now that I have this day come to see him, to treat him in a good manner. And you treat me like this?
Now, this is what Esau's saying while looking up at them, laying on his back on the ground. He'd have fell off his horse.
Yeah.
Oh, you my master, Jacob's master. The kinfolk. How y'all treat me like this, man? I ain't seen him in 20 years. Why y'all treat me like this? Listen, Esau was not a joke. In reality, Esau was not a joke. But compared to these who that just came upon him, they have reduced Esau to what he is as we're reading about him here. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so then, and the angels answered him, saying, as Yah liveth, were not Jacob, of whom thou speakest, your brother? We would have not let one remaining from thee of thy people. But only because of Jacob will we let you live. So,
yeah, I know who you are. And what I'm telling you is, had you not been Jacob's brother, we'd have smashed all of y'all.
Y'all, man, straight up.
Go on by what you was doing. Yeah. We'll keep on moving. Go ahead.
So, and that camp passed by Esau and his men, and they went away. And Esau and his men had gone from them about a league when the second camp came toward him with all sorts of weapons, and they also did unto Esau and his men as the first camp had done to them. And then when they had left to go, and behold, the third camp came toward him, and they were all terrified. And Esau fell off his horse again. And the whole camp cried out, and they said,
he'd have fell again.
Surely we are the servants of Jacob, who is the servant of Yahuah. And who shall stand against us? And Esau answered and said to them, Oh, then Jacob, my master, is your master.
Right.
And like I said before, I ain't seen him in 20 years. His countenance and his hearing this day that he is coming. And I went this day to meet him. And why y'all treat me like
I was just trying to go out there and love him up. I heard he was coming to see our peoples. I was coming to greet him on the way. Wanted to put my kisses on his neck and escort him the rest of the way in love and make sure no harm came to him.
I wanted to introduce to my children.
We kinfolk. And here you is with your gangster ways. Talking about who you with, where you from, what side you from. You done scared my horse, threw me off.
I don't know where my horse is.
Can I move now? Look, what the man in the bar shop say? Now wait a minute now. Yah, can you wait a minute? Give me a second. This is what Esau saying to them. Give me a second. Can I move? I'm trying to love my brother.
Can I get up off this ground and go take up a horse?
That's right. And they told him, be as you were. We just need you to know this one thing. Go ahead.
They answered him and said unto him, as the master liveth, were not Jacob thy brother as thou didst say?
Right.
We had not left a remnant from thee and thy men. But on account of Jacob, on whom thou speakest, is thy brother, will we not meddle with thee or thy men?
Okay.
And that third camp also passed from them, and he still continued his road with his men toward Jacob.
Now think about something for a second. What does that mean? And he still continued on his road with his men. What does that mean? What do y'all take that to mean?
Like, he looked to make sure they was gone. It was like, back to what we was doing.
He continued with his original intentions.
He gave him a speech.
He gave him a speech. Yeah.
And in the trees, he went and found his horse in them, cleaned his bowels.
Yeah.
Washed himself.
Changed his garments if he had to.
Yeah.
But his intentions did not change. He still was in a mindset that when he got to his brother, he was going to do his brother some harm.
Oh.
Okay.
And when the fourth camp came toward him, and they also did unto him and his men as the others had done. And when Esau beheld the evil which the four angels had done to him and his men, he became greatly afraid of his brother Jacob. And he went to meet him in peace.
Now, y'all knew that it was going to take at least 4 waves for Esau to get the picture that this was a bad idea. And it was only after that 4th wave, for whatever reason, but y'all knew, that he finally changed his nature to a
demeanor.
Peaceable. Yeah, his demeanor finally switched to a peaceful demeanor.
What a boy told me at the barbershop to get him his money for their haircut back. Their
Yeah,
haircut on me.
that's on me.
Their haircut on me.
40.
And Esau concealed his hatred against Jacob because he was afraid of his life on account of his brother Jacob. And because he had imagined that the 4 camps that he had lightened upon were Jacob's servants.
Well, that's what they told him. They said, we Jacob's servants. So imagine Jacob. If we are under his authority, Jacob must be more fearsome than us. So Esau don't know what he is coming up to meet now. You understand what I'm saying? Like he in his mind, his brother left his little brother that he knew he could whoop. And now what these Melakim are impressing upon him is, you don't know that Jacob coming to you with good intentions. You think for some reason that because you think you the biggest, baddest thing around, that Jacob ain't bigger and badder than you.
You come with your little whole rights.
Yeah, with your whole rights. You better take them horse somewhere else. Genesis 32. Picking up at verse 22. So while all of this is going on, what's happening with Jacob? What's happening with Jacob while all this is going on? Genesis 32, picking up at 22 through 20 through 32. Genesis 22 through 32, whenever you're ready.
And he rose,
32, I apologize. 32, 22 through 32. Right.
And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford of Yahuah. And he took them and sent them over the stream and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day.
Okay.
And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip.
This man wrestled with Jacob. And when the day was breaking and he saw that he had not overcome Jacob, he reached out and touched Jacob's hip. Go ahead.
And dislocated it as he wrestled with him.
And
he said to him, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me.
So as he dislocated his hip, Jacob still didn't stop wrestling with him. And he had to tell him after he wouldn't stop wrestling him, even though he's now wrestling him with a dislocated hip, listen, man, the day is coming. Let me go. And he tells him, because obviously Jacob realizes that this is not a man. I'm not letting you go until you bless me. Go ahead.
So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name is no longer called Jacob, but Yisrael, because you have striven with power and with men and have overcome.
Hallelujah. Now pause for a second. That's something that's very important for us to understand. The name of our forefather and the name of our nation has a meaning. He changed his name from Jacob at that point, which simply meant heel catcher, supplanter. That's what the brother keep calling him. He keeps supplanting me. He keep taking what's mine. That's what he was calling him. That was his name. He says, at this point, going forward, you are no longer called the supplanter. You are now called Israel or Yisrael or Yasharal, however you want to pronounce that, because you have striven with power, with Elohim, and with men, and you have overcome. This encapsulates the whole walk of the nation. This encapsulates our story from Genesis, even though it was before the nation, all the way to Revelations, which is the story of us overcoming through Yahushua Ha MashiYahch, right? It literally means to strive with power, to overcome with power, and then to rule with power. That's what that name means. Okay, so this is a turning point in the life of Israel, who was formerly known as Jacob, right? And I understand that, for people who are kind of like casual readers of the Bible or casual observers of biblical history, sometimes when you speak of Jacob and Israel, it's a little confusing because they're not sure, are we talking about one individual? Are we talking about a nation? Well, this is where that changed. This is where the man's name was changed. And this is where, going forward, you have identified the name of this nation. Because again, as we showed last week, the promises, the covenants were passed to Israel's 12 sons, not just Israel as an individual, right? And so from here forth, these sons of Israel are now going to be known, once they come out of Egypt, as a nation that is called Israel. Okay. Picking up at 29.
And Jacob asked him, saying, please let me know your name.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, why do you ask about my name?
Mm-hmm.
And he blessed him there.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob called the name of that place Peniel. For I have seen powers face to face,
Mm-hmm.
and my life is preserved.
Mm.
And the sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel,
Mm-hmm.
and he limped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of his hip.
All right. So it wasn't a dream. He woke up limping. It wasn't a vision, right? And so this says he called that place Peniel because he says, I have seen Elohim face to face. So whatever Jacob felt like he wrestled with was not just an angel, but he felt like this was the angel, the head angel of the angels. He felt like this was Ha MashiYahch. Let me just be blunt with you. He felt like this was Ha MashiYahch. And here's something for you to consider. When he asked him his name, his response to him was the same response that was given to Moses when Moses felt like he was talking to Elohim. And he asked him, when I go to the children of Israel and I say, Elohim has sent me to you, what name should I say? And he said, I am whatever I choose to present myself as. I am whatever I choose to present myself as. So as for my name, don't worry about a name. But when they ask you who sent you, tell them Yahuah sent you. And so this Melak, this angel, gave him a very similar response. He asked him for his name. He said, don't worry about my name. But he did bless him, right? And so I believe that this may have been that same Melak. Let's wrap this up with Genesis 33, 1 through 11. I believe that this was Melak Yahuah. Let me be clear. There's one angel that we read in the Hebrew translation that is referred to as Melak Yahuah, or in the English translation, it says the Angel of Yah. And I believe this was that Malakim or Melak. Go ahead.
And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw Esau coming with his 400 men. And he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two female servants.
Uh-huh.
And he put the female servants and their children in front, and Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last.
Now, don't just think that he just put these women out there with no protection. Remember, he divided them into two camps. One at the head of one leading one wife, servant, and children in that camp was one of Eleazar's sons, and one leading the other wife and her servant and their children and all their camp was the other servant of Eleazar. So he did not just send these women out in the forefront like, I'm hiding behind these women. I just want to be clear there. Go ahead.
And he and he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times as he came near to his brother.
So by the time he got to Esau, it said he stopped and prayed 7 different times. Go ahead.
And Esau ran to meet him
What?
and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him.
Now, here's the thing. One was happy and the other one was glad.
I'm telling you.
Both of them feel like their life has been spared.
Hey.
Does that make sense? So,
Hey.
so you may ask yourself, like, why is Esau crying? And now you're asking yourself also, well, why is Jacob crying? Well, because they both happy to see each other. When the other one don't have no malice in their face or their heart, or they both was happy at this point.
Hey.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead.
And they wept.
Mm-hmm.
And he lifted his eyes and he saw the women and children and said, who are these with you? And he said, the children with whom Elohim has favored your servant.
Mm.
Then the female servant came near, they and their children, and bowed themselves.
Mm.
And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves.
So they honoring his big brother as a big brother. Go ahead.
Then Esau said, what do you mean by all this company which I met?
Now what he talking about is that company that you didn't read about in Standard 66. You read about them where we just read about them, but it didn't tell you about all that. It just told you about the first group of people that Jacob sent that Esau rejected. Esau spat at their suggestion that Jacob was going to be able to pay him off and not get this butt whooping.
Mm-hmm.
But when that other camp came through, now Esau was like, oh, these my nieces, these my nephews. Camp folk, good to see y'all. Now, why you send them folks at me like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and Jacob said, to find favor in the eyes of my master.
Mm.
But Esau said, I have enough, my brother.
Mm.
Let what you have remain yours. You keep them, you keep all 4,000 of them.
Uh-huh.
I took anything.
Right.
That's right.
And Jacob said, no, please. If I have now found favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you have blessed, and you are pleased with me.
Now, here's how I read that. If I found favor in you, if you are still no longer holding a grudge against me, I need you to accept this as a token that you are no longer holding a grudge against me. And what's his response?
And he's please take my blessing that is brought to you.
I've been blessed, and I'm extending this blessing to you. This was all over some blessing, right? Okay, go ahead.
Because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all I need.
Mm-hmm.
And he urged him, and he took it.
And he took it. So it should have been over with, right? Esau at this point should no longer have any issues, him or his children, with Jacob. But for some reason, it just don't turn out like that. We're going to wrap up right there because I want to make a clean break. We're going to get into from here us being a kingdom of priests, because now we're dealing with all 12 sons, right? And the sons of light versus the sons of darkness, a priesthood within a priesthood, but it all starts with Jacob going to Shechem. This is where it gets kicked off, okay? So with that, family, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Let me stop my screen share. It was a blessing as always. And if you guys have anything you want to share from what we went over today, or any questions you want to ask, now's the time. Feel free. I saw a Coty Kimberly's hand. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
And everything is kind of starting to come together really well. Like the picture is clear. But I still miss that foundation. So if you ever find the time, I know you got 25 hands full of everything that you're doing. If you ever find the time
Yes.
to put that Melchizedek together. I would love that. I think that would bring it all home for me because I feel like I'm still missing some pieces. But it's like laying a brick. It's perfect. It's real good. But that's the only thing I'm missing. So if you ever get one of your 25 hands free, slide that out there for me.
I got you, sis. I got you. I was actually thinking about Melchizedek again this morning as I was going through this material, and I was thinking the same thing that I really have to I really got to get that done so I can get it to you guys. The sad part about it to me, really don't have nothing to do with y'all, is I actually did record it, and when I went to edit it didn't record. So it was a technical malfunction, but it was one of those situations where I had the time, but it was just enough time, and when it didn't actually record, man, the wind was so far out of my sails that I threw my hands up. I might even turn the desk over or something. And I was like, no, it just ain't happening today. But I will get that done, sis. I will definitely get it done. Okay. Hold off of that. Akoti, Antoinette.
No, when you were going over, it made me think. I said, see, when Jacob left, he was scrawny. He was the slim brother.
Almost done.
He was the little young slim brother. He was his twin, but he was slimmer. So Esau, like you said, he figured, oh yeah, we gonna roll up on them, and this ain't gonna, this ain't gonna be nothing but a bam. But then he see all these boys. He's like, what? What they been feeding him over there? What he been eating over there at Laban's house? So that's what I was saying. I said, he bit off a little more than he could chew when he saw the Melchizedek come up on him.
Had a little too much dip on his chin. Yeah, I mean, just think about this too. That's a common thing when somebody go off and separate, in their youth and begin to go out and make their way. They rarely come back the same. In all honesty, I know that it's kind of accentuated by the fact that these warriors came and really, put the fear of Yah in the heart of Esau before he ever got to Jacob. But even by the time Jacob got there, let's remember Jacob has been gone for 20 years. Jacob's been gone for 20 years. He has matured into a man.
How old was he when he left?
I don't remember offhand. But he's been working in fields. He's been working with them animals, right? That takes some strength. That takes physical strength, some brutish strength. We have depictions described of Jacob and his arms, and someone described Jacob's arms to look like tree trunks. And so when you think about all the lines in a tree trunk that look like veins and vascularity, Jacob was not a small guy. Jacob was not weak. Jacob was not afraid of battle. He may have been a little bit afraid of his older brother because his older brother had a reputation, but Jacob was not faint of heart in any way. So yeah, I mean, even when he did meet Jacob, Jacob may not have been as fearsome as those Melakim, but Jacob was full grown, fully developed. Now he was a grown man at this point. I mean, a grown man. Think about, and we talk about this jokingly when we look at like high school and college athletes, right? You're dealing with a high school or college athlete that their whole job when they training up to go professional is to be in the gym and lift weights. And so a college athlete will graduate at the top of their field as a, let's say, football player, linebacker, lineman, whatever, and they'll be a big, you look at your college son and be like, this is a big boy. But when they finally go to the NFL, guess what? Them grown men, right? And all they do is lift weights and run and hit and smash and kill for a living. Yeah.
Right. So think he was 20 years old when he left, and when he came back, he was 40. So you think of a 20-year-old man compared to a 40-year-old man, because it was 20 years.
You got some girth. You got some breath on your shoulders now, broader. Chest is a little bit bigger. Voice is a little bit more serious. You speaking a little bit more directly. You ain't talking and holding your head to the side no more because, look, you didn't have some children and everything that go along with that. Yes.
Was he smaller than his big brother
When they left?
in general?
Esau killed him.
Yeah, we don't read that he was smaller. We read that they was twins. But before he left, Esau was a man who stayed in the field. So it reads like Esau was a more physically advanced man. But maybe not by the time they met the second time. Yeah. Okay, Koti Gilead told us she has posted a link for you guys if you want to join the Koti chat. They set up a Discord chat last night. Hallelujah for that. Hallelujah. That's the way to organize, family. And we got a link here for anybody who's joining us in Galveston for Unleavened Bread. I'm going to click on that as well to sign up for meal prep. Told out for that. Hallelujah. Did anybody else want to come to the mic? Any more additions, observations, comments, questions? All right. Koti Latasha, you got it.
I just had a question when you was talking about him wrestling with the angel. Now, was that the lead angel? Because I know you were saying like it's somewhere it reads like the angel of Yah, and then sometimes it reads other. But is that like Yah being, because you like he said he can be anything I am. Do you think it was Yah like coming in the spirit of a messenger, or was that him sending one of his lead messengers?
My belief is that when Moses was discoursing at the bush, he was talking to the Melak, who is also referenced as Yahuah. Okay. My belief is that when we read about the spirit of Yah roaming on the face of the deep in Genesis, we're talking about Yah's Ruach, right? So we discuss Yah, but Yah is able to send his Ruach into the earth. He also says that he is able to give a measure of his spirit as he sees fit to individuals or persons or whatever. We read about the operation of his Ruach in the earth, his spirit in the earth, in several different places, and it is called several different things. You read about it called the Word, you read about it called the Spirit, and you also sometimes read about it called the Messenger of Yah. When Moses told the children of Israel to be still and witness the deliverance of Yah as the waters were split, you were also reading about the Spirit of Yah dividing the waters for the children of Israel so that the children of Israel could pass on dry land. That was also the Spirit of Yah, but his spirit also had a name which Moses identified as Yahusha. If you read, give me 1 second, let me find the scripture for you real quick. Let's look at Philippians chapter 2, verse 9. If that's what you're looking for. Let me see. Philippians 2. Okay. Now, in this, I'll share my screen. Give me 1 second. In this passage that we're going to read here, we are definitely talking about Ha MashiYahch that came in the flesh, Yahushua, right? But let's look at what it says, and let's read it and use critical thinking, but also just literally read what it's actually saying. It says, Elohim therefore has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name, that at the name of Yahushua, can you pause for a second? Okay. That at the name of Yahushua, every knee should bow, of those in heaven and of those on earth and of those under the earth, and every tongue should confess that Yahushua, the Messiah, is master to the esteem of Elohim the Father. Now, this is saying that the Messiah that we read about in the so-called New Testament was given a name that was already in the earth, right? So what I'm saying is, again, as we read about the children of Israel passing through the waters, Moses says, stand still and witness Yahushua. He literally says, and if we translate it in English, it says, witness the deliverance of Yah, but that is Yahushua. And so there was that Melak Yahuah, Yahushua, in the earth operating as a delivering spirit. Isaac just prayed for deliverance as well. And when Isaac prayed for deliverance, he was delivered by that same Ruach that is Yah's Ruach, but is operating in the earth and known as Yahusha, the spirit of Yah. Okay. And so, yes, I believe that was the same Malak that Isaac was wrestling with, and the same Malak that Moses was dealing with, and the same Malak that presented itself to Joshua. But also, when we read in John, let's go back and share my screen again. 1 second. Because John really clarifies it for me. And if I'm wrong, somebody maybe show me where they see it differently. But John really clarified this for me. Says, I'm going John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. If you parallel this with Genesis, it says it was the Spirit. Here it says it was the Word. Now we're talking about one and the same thing. We're verifying that Yah's Spirit and the Word means the same thing. And the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. Now, again, verifying that the Word and Elohim are the same, but able to be separated at his desire. Okay? He was in the beginning with Elohim. Now we've called the Word and his Spirit a he. We've given it a personage, even though we're talking about Yah's Spirit, as sometimes separate from Yah. That's why Elohim fits. Okay? All came to be through him, and without him, not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. As the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yachanan. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light. John the Baptist, Yachanan, was not the light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. Now we're talking about Messiah. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, the Spirit, the Word, Yahusha, okay? And the world did not know him. Sounds feasible, right? A lot of people rejected him, even in the so-called Old Testament. Not only in the New Testament, when they rejected him, but even in the Old Testament, we're reading about all the people who rejected Yah's Spirit. Okay? He came to his own, and his own did not receive him, even in the Old Testament. Okay? But as many as did receive him, the Ruach, the Word, Yahusha, he gave them authority to become children of Elohim, to those believing in what? His name, the deliverance of Yah. Okay? Who were born not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim. The Word, and the Word became flesh. So, the Word was sent into the world, into the flesh. by way of which we read about was the pregnancy of Miriam, Yahusha's mother, without her consummating the marriage between her and Joseph, right? Which fulfilled the prophecy. So, and the word became flesh and pitched his tent among us. Let's look at this word tent. I apologize, sis. I know this is a long answer to your question, and I realize that you probably already understand what I'm saying. But I'm going into this for somebody who may not. Okay, let's look at what a tent is. Not a blood. There we go. So in the KJV, it says dwell. So that that Greek word is skinu, or skenu. From G4637, a tent or an encamp, a dwelling place, that is figuratively to occupy a mansion, or specifically to reside or to reside, as Yah did in the tabernacle of old, or as Yahusha did in the physical tabernacle that was born through the womb of Mary, a symbol for protection and communion, to dwell. Okay, here we go. From H4633, a hunt or a temporary residence, that is figuratively the human body, as the abode of the spirit. The human body as the abode of the spirit. What spirit? Yah spirit. The body of the physical man who was given a name that was already in the earth, set aside for him because Yah said he was going to send his son, the spirit, meaning a portion of him that was able to come into the earth, but not him himself, as his authority and as his agent to do the things that he dictated should be done. So his son acting as his agent in the earth by way of his spirit, who he named Yahusha, the deliverance, and who every time he interacted with someone and they asked who he was, said, don't worry about me, it's all about my Father. Right? And so it says then, he pitched his tent among us, and we saw his esteem of as of an only brought forth. And let me just say, that's a contrast to Jesus, the character of Jesus, who it was always about Jesus. Right? Yahusha never made it about him. It was always about his Father. Okay. In other words, what I'm saying is what they teach in the name of Jesus. Okay. So Yachanan bore witness of him and cried out, saying, this was he of whom I said, he who comes after me has become before me, or was before me. And because he was before me, out of his completeness, we all did receive and favor unto favor. For the Torah was okay. So I don't want to confuse anything. So yes, I believe that when we read about certain angels, and what I'm looking for is characteristics. What is the characteristic of warrior angels? What is the characteristics of watcher angels? What is the characteristics of guardian angels? What is the characteristics of ministering angels? And what is the characteristics of this one particular Malachim that says, that is identified as Melak Yahuah, or the Angel of Yah, and also identified in some places as the Word, and also identified as some places as Yahusha. I think when I read that was that angel. And I apologize again. I know that's a long answer to a short question, but does that help?
Yes, because then I was going to add in there as well. So that would be the angel or the Melak that was in the garden during the time of the creation, as well, the spirit that was in the garden during the time of the creation, as well as when they sacrificed the animal to make their clothing. Then the spirit that Abraham had talked to as well, which would have been the Melchizedek at that time. So the priesthood was already established through that spirit.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. And the reason is because Messiah himself said nobody has seen or heard the Father's voice. The only begotten Son does declare. So if Messiah said it, I believe it, which means that they were talking to someone, again, who was acting in agency for the Heavenly Father, but was not the Heavenly Father. We're talking about that she said Abraham, who would have been in the place of Melchizedek at the time. Yeah. No, Abraham would have been in the place of Melchizedek at that time. Yeah. Right now, Yahushua is in the place of Melchizedek. And all of those, to be clear, all of those priest rulers who were in the physical office of Melchizedek were similitudes of Messiah and what Messiah would be when everything is summed up, when everything is complete. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. But that's the order that I believe we're in right now. We're no longer in the Levitical order of priesthood. That priesthood, as we read in Hebrews, when Messiah did what he did, that priesthood has been nullified for a better priesthood, one that is not changed by the death of any one man, according to Hebrews. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Hallelujah. Yes, that was a great question. I agree. Excellent question. Anybody else? All right, family. Well, I guess we're going to close this out. Everybody can stop and sup. Get their grub on. And y'all willing, we will see. What's the date next week? Hold on. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. We may not be going live next week. Let me see what the date is. Rib and I see Friday the 17th. Oh no, we can do Friday. Saturday we won't be going live, but we'll do Friday. So we'll see you guys next Friday. Next Sunday we'll be in Arlington for anybody who chooses to join us there.
Yeah, we'll see some of y'all now. I know Coty Kabora, Coty Gilead coming out. Coty Celeste.
Coty Camille in here. We'll see her there. So anybody that's gonna be live in Arlington, we'll see you guys there Sunday, but we're probably gonna be there Saturday. So we're gonna just rest in Shabbat on Saturday. We won't go live. But we'll see you Friday night. Y'all willing? Things are getting a little deeper. Look, once we get past what happens with Levi, Simeon, and Shechem and all that, we're going to get into what the Levites did and why there were changes to the Levitical priesthood. And that's where you begin to really see the importance of not just Torah, but keeping the calendar, why the calendar is so important to Yah's priesthood and to those who proclaim to be Yah's people. And that's really the heart of where this all is going, because that's what caused me to start to see some of the stuff that I'm seeing, is because we were trying to figure the calendar out. And I was finding out that, and I know I've said this to y'all before, I was finding out that these other priesthoods have different calendars, and some of them are Israelites. But these other priesthoods have different calendars. But Yah said, this is the calendar for my people and my priests, so that you can be in line with all of the fellowships that I set for you and I. In other words, for us to fellowship together, we have to be on this calendar, and my priests know my calendar. And when they lose it, here's the way for them to get back to it, right? But we'll see the importance of it. We'll even see literally kings and priests being put in place to keep track of it. And we just stopped. We stopped. But it was prophesied we were going to stop. We let go of our inheritance. So it's very important that we get this thing back. And it helps, I believe, to see that when someone is trying to tear you away from this, it is because, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they are following a different priesthood, right? You're either in line with Yah or you're not. Those are the only two options. And although we may stumble, unless you're completely rejecting Yah, you can come back. You stumble, you can come back. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, Shabbat Shalom, family. We love you.
I had one more question.
Absolutely.
Yep, I'm sorry. I don't know why I do this every time, but I had one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the Levitical priesthood, are we also going to talk about the infiltrations of the different, as they call it, Esau children that also like remove some of the Levitical priests and set themselves in their position to change the priesthood?
So that's going to be after, that's going to be, that information really comes out in between Malachi and Matthew. So in other words, I'm finding a lot more details of that in the writings of Josephus. So yeah, we can get into some of that, but that's even further down the line. That's even further down the line. Oh. As you were speaking about even Herod, that's when all that stuff starts to take place. Maccabees, so we can get into some of it pre-Josephus if we just deal with Maccabees. But that was kind of the change when priests who were not supposed to be priests started becoming priests, and positions were being sold and purchased. We'll get into all that. Hallelujah.
Okay, yes. Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom. That's a good testament for resources. If y'all don't have it, I will get it. Very good. All right, love you guys. I'm cold as fresh. I'm cold as fresh. Yes, I'm too blessed to be stressed because I'm
I say yes. I'm too blessed to be stressed. Nevertheless, I must confess. Yes, this is Project Wake Up Jacob. On the Sabbath we rest and reflect upon his goodness.